All right, today I want to go over the wrapping up of the page transitions. That way you can see where this is going, what the end product will look like. Last we left off, I had in my compositions folder, I have several final page transitions. So you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will have at least 5. You could have 6 or 7 or 10 if you really wanted to. The ones that are labeled final, obviously that makes it easier for me to find which ones are completed because you can see all the other examples that I have in here, other things I've used as pieces. Oh, there's another one. So what I'm going to do first before I do any of that is I'm going to save this, which I've already done, and then I'm going to open up my title card. Because what we're going to be doing is importing our title card into our page transition, okay? So here is, that's not my title card, there it is, final. And I believe I have sound if I were just to turn that on. Plug it in first, and then we can hear it. So many knobs. Didn't hear that at all. I don't know. It didn't come through. Headphones? Yes, headphones. Headphones. And then I'm going to make sure this is something that you might have to do in, anytime you're working in any of these softwares is go to the audio hardware preference and tell it where you want the audio to come out of. So you could actually have the audio come out of your headphones or have it come out of the speakers of your device. So headphones, yes. Now when I hit play, we hear it out of the speakers. Cool. All right, so there's my item done. I just wanted to make sure that I had it labeled as the final one. I don't need to worry about any of this other stuff right now. I just need to make sure that that's there and make sure that these are all nice and organized. Okay? So now I'm going to go back into my page transition. I'm going to go to import, and I'm going to import my file. And that's going to be inside of Title Card Fancy. There it is. And there's only one option to import this as a project, so I'm going to say import. And it'll create a folder. So this folder right here, as long as I've kept everything organized, which I should have from the beginning, I have a folder that is my title card. So all those folders I had in the other one are right here. So if I open this up, I open compositions up, there's my final fancy title card ready to go. Okay? So I'm going to open up my page transitions comp folder. And I'm going to select these in a specific order. The order I pick these is the order that they're going to play in. So what do I want first? Title card. Thank you. All right. Then I'm going to control click all the other ones that I want. Did I miss the one? That one. Okay. Then I'm just going to take all of these and drag it onto that new comp button. After Effects will bring up a pop-up. It'll basically say, do you want to make a single comp, multiple comps, blah, blah, blah. We're doing a single composition. All the sizes should be exactly the same. Okay, we've done all of these at the same resolution, so this shouldn't matter. But I'm going to pick my fancy title card 1 because that's the default. I'm also going to hit sequence layers, and I'm not going to hit overlap. Okay, I'm going to do that manually. Then I'm going to hit OK. So now what that does, it puts them in the exact order I selected them in and stacks them. So it's one right after the other, right after the other. So now if I go in here and I hit play, there's that. Beautiful. Okay. I need to adjust it though. It doesn't look perfect. Number one, I don't think I ever animated my fancy title card going off screen. So I left that to you guys. So let me just throw that so I can animate the stuff going off. So I need my 0, 2 and the circle. And I'm just going to pull those down. And then I'll also drop my background also out of screen. So yours won't have this because you already animated all your stuff. I apparently forgot to animate that. And obviously, if you fixed up stuff that I mentioned last time on your cards, use that one. All right, so now I have one that goes all the way here, and then at the end, everything goes away. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I need to line these up so that there's no lag. So here, even though it's only a couple frames, everything is off the frame by 519 in mine. And then I have a couple frames here where nothing is going on. That's like dead time. I don't want that. Motion graphics should flow from one piece to the next piece to the next piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hotkey, which is page up and page down, to go to the last frame that I see something in. Okay? So I see something, I don't see something, I go back to that frame. Okay?
So I was trying to like go back and forth like Premiere, but it was different. So
It is different. Yeah. Like I said, After Effects is close enough to the Adobe products that it works, but far enough away that it pisses us off. So. Yeah. So I'm going to just reorganize these because I want my title card to be at the bottom, and I want my stairs to go this way. Okay? Then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to bring in this composition. And I'm going to do basically the same thing. I'm going to go right to, okay, that's where that one's coming in, so I can see which one this is. And I'm going to go right about there. That way I have a little bit of overlap between this one coming into the screen and the other one going off of screen. Okay? That way it's going to feel like it flows much nicer. Now I'm going to scoot up to the end of this. I'm going to drag my thing until the very end of it, right there, and do the same thing. So this is nothing on the screen. I go back one frame, there's something, and then I just drag this. If you want to make this harder for you, feel free to. You'll just have to be resubmitting it if you don't do it right. Okay, same thing here. Yep, so I always want my new transition to be on top of stuff.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. That one's there. And it's I mean, it seems minimal. Like we're only cutting out like maybe 10 frames out of the whole thing, but 10 frames is a lot when you're looking at motion graphics. It's a killer if you just have to have people wait. Oh, that's that one. I don't even want that one in there. I'm just going to delete that one. I'm just going to scoot that one in. There we go. I'm going to go to the end of this. And apparently I didn't animate the end of that one. Horrible. But just going to do that, and then I'm going to time reverse my keyframes. There we go. And this is what I mentioned before about once you understand the concepts of these, it's simply a matter of doing them over and over and over again. Once you're comfortable setting keyframes, there's no different between the first animation we do and the last animation. We just have a lot more control over it. Yep, that's it. And then that'll just cut off at the end. Okay. So now back to this one. There we go. I don't even mind how that disappears a different way. That's fine. I'm going to go right there. I'm actually going to cut this one. And I'm going to drag the other one into frame. Come on, get in there. Just dragging the end of that. So I can do Alt right bracket, and that will cut, which was on the hotkey sheet. There we go. And then I'm going to go to the end of this one, and I'm going to go right to where it's done. Go like 2 frames past it, and then I'm going to hit N to set the end of my work area. Okay. The reason I went 2 frames past it, sometimes the QuickTime Player, the VLC, will like stop it from playing those last 2 frames or 3 frames. So it's always good to go a little bit past the animation, give it some room, okay? So now this is a 13-second and 3-frame animation. I'm going to save it. I'm going to play. Oops. Let's update this because this is not O2 and this is not title card. Right. So back here, we will go back to our stuff, and if we did this correctly, we should be able to go to page transitions. See how close that was?
Like one of the longer names assignments?
Yep. So this is the longest one, and when I set this up originally, I made sure page transitions would fit. And then there's 03, and then now I go back to this. Everything is updated. Save again, and then hit play. I'm also watching as I'm doing this, obviously nice transitions from one to the other. I also want to make sure that I have motion blur on everything. There we go. Boom. Nope, my 03 is kind of floating. I had to fix that. All right, so now we jump back into that. We grab our 03, we turn off our graph. All right, here it is, kind of floating. So I'm going to go to this keyframe, and this is just something that happens. After Effects tries to keep a nice fluid motion from keyframe to keyframe, and when you have it stopping, sometimes it like overshoots and then comes back, okay? So if I go to this keyframe here, this one and this one are like the same value, but it changes in the middle. So I'm going to go to this first one, right-click, and say toggle hold. So that means hold that frame until you get to the next keyframe, okay? So now there's no updating there. So then we jump back to this. You'll see, though, even though I've done this for years, there's still some issues that I forget or things that happen when I'm doing this. Beautiful.
Are we going to add more music, or is it just going to be?
Just like that is for this. We'll add more stuff as we get into other assignments, but this one is just that. There we go. All right. So then this process is the same. We go to add to render queue. I go to lossless. I make sure that it's QuickTime. I make sure that my format option is Apple ProRes 422HQ. For the audio, let's talk about that for a second. So I'm just going to hit OK, and then I'm going to come back to this. Whenever we're looking at audio, where are you at? Here it is. I use the doorbell or the ding bell one. This audio is 44,100 kilohertz, which is basically like the sample rate of the audio. So think of that as like frames per second, but for audio, okay? So if I had this at 96,000, that would be more samples, deeper levels, and all that. Bless you. If this was at 11,000, that would be a lower quality, so you might get some noise in the background or anything, okay? So when I go through and I'm picking this, I typically want this to match my lowest one. Sometimes you can, if they're close enough, if I have one audio that's 48, one audio that's 44, those are close enough I can probably go to the 48 and not lose anything. But if one is 11 and one is 44, I should probably find something different for that 11 because it might sound like horrible compared to the other one, okay? So realistically, you pick the lowest one, and then if everything sounds like crap, you can try the highest one and then see if that gives you a better setting. There are options here for audio which will can be compressed, but that depends on which codec you're using. So this codec automatically will uncompress the audio. So it'll give you the highest quality of that. We also have 16-bit, which is how deep it goes. So think of like we have frames per second for something in video. The 16-bit is like the depth of the audio, like how much information is it actually gathering. And then stereo is 2 speakers, then mono is 1 speaker. That's probably the one you've heard before. This is the same thing. Like this, if this was an 8-bit, I would probably choose 8-bit just so it's not trying to up-convert it. There we go. Then I click this. Then I go into not that folder. Go into here. Fall 19. Title, page transitions. Movies. And then I give this my name. page transitions. And then I hit render. Okay, and again, I'm making sure motion blur's on. I'm making sure all my other stuff is checked. I watched this after. Was that?
So that sounded like a video game.
Yeah. P drive, there, 900. Remember, VLC or the QuickTime will open this. The other one won't. Typical things you'll see that are bad to have inside of your animation is just something that hangs too long. So if I were to have this here, let's say I went to this and that frame stood around for a second, that's way too long. That's not a transition. So I'd want to go in there and crop it so that it does feel like a transition. It comes on, maybe it's there for 2 frames and then it goes away, okay? Same thing on like this one. This one probably hangs out maybe a little bit too long. You see it's there for a little bit and then it goes away. That one's a little bit, no, that one's fine. And then that one's all right, okay. Cool. So then you're gonna turn in your sheet, you'll turn in your planning stuff that you've done, your storyboard stuff, and then your folder. I don't need this Adobe After Effects autosave. You can just trash that folder. I don't need that. That's like an automatic backup that Adobe does. There'll also be probably a, I don't have it in that one. There's usually another folder in here. It's like the Adobe temp folder. You can get rid of that too, but all I should have from you is your page transition and your movie. This other stuff that got imported for your title card, that automatically gets dropped in there, okay? Now, no, I don't need that. Yep, no, when I go through, just so you can see how I do it, when I go through and grade, the first thing I do is I open up your After Effects file and then I watch your movie. So I don't look at the After Effects yet. I watch the movie and I see how it flows. I'm just naked eye, let's see what this looks like. Then I go through and I'm like, okay, let's go basically frame by frame. And I just scrub through and I'm watching how the animations are moving. I'm looking for little ticks. I'm looking for things that, you know, oh, this doesn't have motion blur on it. So you need motion blur. Or right here, this whole screen just disappears. Like you cut it too soon. And there's not like a natural transition of it going away. Okay? Same thing here. Are these coming on nice and neat, or is there some jerkiness of how they're getting on the screen? And then I'll even go into these, and then I will select everything. I'll hit U, and then I'll look at all your keyframes and see, are they at least easy eased? And then I'll go into the graph editor. I'll click on some of these and verify, yes, you've actually done some graph editor stuff to this, okay? And then give you the grade based off of all that stuff. Cool. Questions on wrapping that up?